Alrighty, I am back at it with another episode of RE Radar. Once again, I'm your host and realtor, Nathan Mathisen. And if this is your first time joining us on the radar, a little bit about us quickly before we get going. This show, it's all about education, all about real estate education. As my goal, what is it? Well, it's to help people understand the complex intricacies of real estate. So, that if you are involved in a deal where maybe you're a first time home buyer, or maybe you're selling your home for the first time, or whatever the case may be, this podcast should give you an edge over the average person out there. Now, how I'm going to be doing that today is by talking about pricing. And pricing, well, it really is the most important aspect of any sort of a real estate transaction. The price is what is either going to make the home sell quickly or end up sitting on the market forever and not selling. So let's simplify this right away. A home, it sells when the list price aligns with what the market believes that home or that property is worth. Not what the seller believes their home is worth. Not what the neighbor sold for 3 years ago. Not what a website says. It's all about what the market says. Buyers today, they're educated. They are scrolling daily. They are filtering by price. They are comparing your home side by side with 5 others that are in that same price range. If your home feels overpriced compared to those other options, they move on. It's that simple. So the correct price, what it creates is it creates traffic. And what traffic creates? Well, it creates interest. And interest leads to offers. And offers lead to you having leverage as the seller. Incorrect prices, well, it creates silence, and silence is dangerous. Now, you can have professional photos, you can have great staging, you can have amazing marketing. None of that fixes bad pricing. Buyers, they shop by price bracket. If someone is approved up to 900,000, they're not even going to be seeing your home if it's listed at 925,000. You've removed yourself from an entire pool of demand. And even within a bracket, buyers, they are comparing your value to other homes. So if 3 homes feel similar and yours is just priced higher without justification, then you're out. I mean, they're not dealing with your home anymore. So pricing, it isn't emotional. It is all about math and perception. Now let's start with some of the common mistakes that we'll see out there with pricing. A lot of sellers, they might say, well, what about my assessed value? The county says that it's worth this. That's what I'm paying taxes on. So that must be the value of my home. Well, assessed value is created by mass appraisal models more often than not. Counties, they look at broad data across thousands of homes. They often are using prior year numbers. They do not walk through your home at all. They do not account for condition of it, quality of the updates, layout, functionality, natural light, or view. Assessed value, it exists purely for taxation purpose. It is not designed to measure real-time buyer demand in your area. Now, sometimes assessed value, it could be close, it could be really accurate, but other times it's not. So you really cannot rely on assessed value purely as the value of your home on the open market. Now, next up for the mistakes, we've got those online valuation tools like Zillow. Now, these platforms, they use algorithms pulling public data, past sales, square footage, and other recorded information. They are useful tools, but they do not see your kitchen remodel always. They do not smell the interior of a home if it has pet odor. They do not always understand how different layouts might feel compared to other homes down the street that have more open layouts or different style layouts. Sometimes those estimates then can be very accurate. But then again, just like assessed values, sometimes they can be off by tens of thousands of dollars. So those online valuation tools, they can be a reference point, as sometimes they can be great, but they cannot be the sole authority for how you are pricing your home. Now, how do you find the right price? And how you do that is you look at the market. And that means looking at comparable sales and comparable active properties that are true comps to your property. A comp is not just any home in your neighborhood. It needs to be similar in square footage, bedroom, bathroom count, the architectural style maybe, the lot type, the lot size, the age of your home, the overall condition of the home. A 1995 split level is not the same as a 2018 Craftsman remodel, even if they're the same size and right next door to each other. Location, it can really matter more than people think. If you're a neighborhood 2 miles away, you might have different school boundaries, proximity to traffic, just the walkability of that area. That whole neighborhood can be vastly different than a neighborhood a mile or two away, and that can really impact the value of this home. Now, when you're looking at comps, you're really focusing on kind of three different ones. You're looking at sold homes, as this tells you kind of where the market was recently. Pending homes, this can show you where the buyers are at right now or more recent data. And then you've got the active listings. What the active listings are they are your competition. And here's something many people list. What's not selling is just as important as what is. If there's a similar home sitting at 1.2 million for 45 days with no activity known, well, that's data, and that market is saying that that home is overpriced or something's wrong with it. So what is the danger, though, of overpricing a home? And for some sellers, they think overpricing feels safe, as sellers' mindset might be, we can always come down. But here's what happens. Your home, it hits the market. That first week, 14 days maybe, are when you get the peak exposure. That's when the serious buyers and the agents are closely watching the market to see what comes up. Now, if you're overpriced, they pass on the home instantly. The days on market start building. Your buyer pool has shrunk immensely, as your buyer pool is simply who's just starting their search, and hadn't already seen your home when it first came on the market. Now, once you start really accumulating those days on market, it turns to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and you're sitting forever. These buyers who do show up, well, they start asking questions. What's wrong with this home? Why hasn't it sold? Are these sellers desperate? Will they accept any offer I make? And so next up for you as the seller is, well, you've got to face the facts of you got a price reduction. Well, guess what? Price reductions, they come with their own problems. Because again, a price reduction is another red stain on a listing. You are now officially chasing the market. You have lost all momentum with your listing. You've lost the leverage. Often, homes that start up too high, well, they end up selling for actually less than what they would have had you priced it correctly from the start. That's the part that most sellers don't see, and it can really hurt them in the long run. Now let's address the opposite, underpricing. And maybe that's the biggest fear some sellers have, in that, am I leaving too much money on the table if I price it too low? And this is where it kind of gets interesting. In my opinion, you cannot truly underprice a home below what the market is willing to pay if there is real demand. And guess what? In my area, at least here in the Seattle area, there's always going to be a very strong demand for people buying. So you've got great demand here. The list price that you set your home at, it is a positioning tool. The market is really what is going to determine the final value of what your home sells for. If you list slightly below what your home is worth and what buyers believe it's worth, well, you're going to create more eyes, more showing, more urgency, and more competition around your home. When buyers and their agents see heavy activity, they're going to adjust their offer accordingly. They understand that they are no longer competing against the actual list price. They're competing against the other 10 buyers that are interested in your property. That competition is what will then lead to your final price driving itself up to the true market value. Underpricing strategically does not mean giving your home away for free. It means respecting demand and letting the buyers actually push the price to where it belongs in the current market. Now let's compare two scenarios here. Scenario one is you list at the number that you hope your home is worth, or that you in your eyes think it's worth. The market, well, it disagrees. It sits. You reduce the price. You reduce the price again. You eventually sell, but you've lost time and leverage. Now, scenario two is you list at or slightly below market value. You get great activity that first weekend, strong interest, and next thing you know, you have multiple offers. The market pushes it upward and you're under contract within a week of listing that property. Which one feels more controlled? Which one would you prefer? Because pricing, it isn't about optimism. It is about actual alignment. The market, it's not emotional. It does not care what you really need to net. It does not care if you've spent 30 years in that home. It does not care what great events you've had at that home. It does not care what you paid for that home 2 years ago. All it cares about is the value of your home currently. Now, if you align with that market value, you can get rewarded. If you fight back and try to push to get more and more money, you can really hurt yourself in the long run and end up with less money than had you priced it accordingly. So if you are thinking about selling, understand this. Pricing, it's not just a number. It is a real strategy you have to think about. It is positioning. It is psychology. And more than anything, it is about listening to the market, the current market, not arguing with it. Now, that's all I've got for you guys today. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you can take something away from this. And as always, if you have any questions at all about your specific situation, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to chat and answer some questions. But until then, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has been RE Radar. I'm Nathan Mathisen. Peace.